Now, in our first story, the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, is proposing that the Electoral Commission is split into two separate bodies. The NDC wants a new entity created to regulate political parties for the EC to concentrate on managing elections in the country. This proposal is contained in a list of reforms the party is seeking for, which were informed by perceived flaws in the 2020 election, which spawned a presidential election petition after John Mahama rejected President Akufo-Addo's election victory. They also want the appointment of the EC chair to be done in conjunction with Parliament, among others. Now, let's take a quick look at these reforms once again. And as you see there on your screen, they are asking that the EC provides for prior parliamentary approval for appointment of EC members. Also, we are asking that they repeal the requirement for the consent of the AG to be given before the prosecution of electoral offences. Also, they are asking for specially designated courts to be appointed exclusively for electoral disputes and offences before, during and after the elections. Also, they are asking that the EC should be allowed by law to apply to the courts to remove the names of deceased and other unqualified persons from the provisional register when informed by the relevant authorities. Let's move on and look at what else the NDC is proposing should be changed about the way we do elections in the country. They're asking that GBC should be made to comply with the Supreme Court's decision for it to provide equal access to all political parties. They're also asking that IPAC, the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, should be backed by legislation through an amendment to the Electoral Commission Act 1993, which is spelled out all of its composition and its functions. Now, you would remember that IPAC, for instance, has been very vocal in the time of Madame Jean Mensah, who is the Electoral Commission chair, and she has had to respond that because it's not a constitutionally mandated body, she's not bound by the advice that they give. Now, the NDC is also asking that we spell out by law the security responsibilities of the EC, if any, and the police and the military during the registration of voters and after voting. Also, legislation should bind the chairperson of the EC as a returning officer of the presidential election to afford the agent of the participating political parties and candidates full participation in the collation of the presidential results at the EC's National Collation Center. Remember, there was some controversy around the roles of Roger Metal-Nunu and Dr. Michael Pesa-White, who were the party's elected agents at the National Collation Center after election 2020. Also, they're asking that, this is the big one, that we split the EC into two separate bodies, namely an Office for the Regulation of Political Parties, ORPP, and an Electoral Commission by amending the Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574. Also, the EC should comply with the requirements for each political party participating in an election to be provided with a copy of the final voters register. Now, this also came up ahead of this 2020 election when the EC, because of the creation of the new voters register, may not have had that space to provide all the political parties with the final voters register. That's at least according to the NDC. Now, they're asking that the list of all polling stations to be used for an election with their names, code numbers, and locations should be published in the Gazette and as supplements in the state newspapers, not later than 30 days to the election. Now, they are asking that this would require an amendment to the Public Elections Regulations 2020 CI 127. Now, often the Electoral Commission would have to send a new CI to Parliament ahead of an election if there are going to be any such major changes. And so if any of these reforms by the NDC has to be taken, then of course it would require change in our legislation. Also, the BVD printouts for each polling center. Now, this is the biometric verification device, and this is that device that you place your thumbprint on, your thumb on. When your thumbprint is recognized, then you are allowed to vote. He said that the BVD printouts for each polling center should be given to each political party agent or candidate agent and should be posted at the polling station. So basically, they want to know how many people have been verified by these BVDs or biometric verification devices. Let's look at a few more. It says the regional collation center should be abolished. it requires an amendment to CI 127. Remember, in the just ended election, there were 16 collation centers that were set up in as many regions, where the votes on the presidential election from each of these regions were collated there and then transmitted to the national headquarters, that is the National Collation Center. They are saying that this should be abolished, and let's amend CI 127 to do that. Also, the statements of poll and declaration of results forms should be redesigned and simplified. Now, the voting period of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on election day must be maintained. Remember that the Electoral Commission proposed earlier that the voting period should change from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. So they said that the 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. should be maintained. Also, the EC should stipulate clear procedures for presiding and returning officers on how to proceed in case of any irregularities occurring during the counting and collation process, such as overvoting, non-matching, reconciliation, and mistakes in the result forms. A lot of times, the challenges when it comes to elections and the challenges that are seen there are not resolved on site. There are some level of challenges that are sent onward. So the NDC is asking that these persons are clothed and empowered to resolve all the challenges that they meet. Let's quickly move on. I believe this is the last slide. It says the EC should reduce the number of extra ballot papers supplied to polling stations for spoilage and include smaller booklets containing 20, 50, and 10 sheets so that smaller numbers of extra ballot papers can be given out. There has been a lot of controversy around the giving of extra ballot papers. The NDC believes that when these extra ballot papers are sent in their numbers to the polling stations, it gives some people the opportunity to overvote. And that's the question that they raise. And also, party agents must be enabled by regulations to oversee the transmission of collated results at all various stages of the collation process and at both ends of the results transmission. Also, they are asking that the electoral officials who breach the rules should be sanctioned, and the EC itself should also be sanctioned for non-compliance with its legal obligations, including applicable rules and regulations. And of course, there must be a public broadcast of the presidential vote collation process at the EC head office as and when the constituency presidential results are received. This is also quite different from what we see, because originally we see that the EC boss and the EC will announce for us to know when we have a national picture of what the presidential election is looking like. They are saying that there must be a public broadcast of the presidential vote collation process as and when constituency presidential results are received. So we are going to have 275 different announcements for presidential results as and when the results are received by the EC national headquarters. Now, let's peruse these a bit further. We've been joined by the General Secretary of the PNC, Janet NABLA, for more on this. Ma'am, thanks for joining us. First of all, what's your general reaction? It's about 30 different reforms that the NDC has proposed. What do you think about these reforms?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
We have heard, we've seen the proposals that they made, 10 proposals that they have suggested. And with what they are talking of, they said they want two bodies now. Yes. One for the Electoral Commission, and then one that will see to elections, and then the other one for the regulatory of political parties.
Right.
With the regulation of political parties, they are saying that they want them to be able to remove mushroom political parties out so that only the serious ones will be in place. When you look at political parties' representation in Ghana, we have every political party has 2/3 of its membership in the districts. And that is how Electoral Commission usually use to qualify a political party as being in good standing. Another thing that they do is that they said if you are able to have party offices across the country, which we, to the best of our knowledge, no political party in Ghana can usually afford that, even including these political parties that are in power. So with the regulation, now if you look at Electoral Commission, we have Director of Elections. and he is supposed to see to it that election problems are carried out smoothly. They already have certain things in place at the commission, but the NDC is saying that they want two regulatory bodies,
right,
because during election disputes and other things, it's like attention of electoral commission is not usually geared towards it, and that they have so many roles to play, and as a result, they don't do their best when it comes to election disputes. That is the reason why they want these bodies to be splitted, so that they can be able to get ample time to do their work. That is okay with us from the PNC point of view. It's okay that we should have these things being done. But I think it demands regulations like amendments. And I know that amendments are usually very tedious, and it's not easy to just come out to say that now we are splitting it into two. This one do this, the other one do that. It demands a constitutional amendment, and that will take a lot of time. So we are thinking that now we already have a system in place that is superseding on how things are supposed to be done. It's not like they have boxed all the offices into one at Electoral Commission. They have different offices that take care of different issues. So as to the regulation of political parties, from the PNC point of view, we are okay with that. We are okay, and we know very well that all political parties that usually come into place, Electoral Commission makes sure that you have 2/3 of representation in the districts before you are allowed to contest. But we are also suggesting that having 2/3 representation is enough. It's a regulatory enough. It's enough to be able to become a political party. I know that some time ago, the NDC General Secretary was saying that we have a lot of mushroom political parties that gathered at the EC to make laws for all of them, and they will not agree.
Right.
You know, when you say this, it pains, because the NDC paid 100,000 Ghana cedis for its presidential candidate. The PNC and all the other political parties that contested equally did same. So for you to, and you too, you have not won. You are part of the minority political parties. Whether you performed great or you performed abysmally, you are still a minority party because you are not in power. So for you to regard the other political parties as mushroom, I don't think that it was to the best interest of this country.
Now, Ms. NABLA, the points that he was making, and I hear your points that you feel the NDC's classification of some political parties as mushroom parties are unfair, but the NPP, when they were in opposition, also had cause to make such complaints, especially when they were advocating for the creation of a new voter register under Charlotte Osei way back in 2015. The argument is that if some of these political parties are not strong and independent on their own, the governing party often influences them and uses them for their advocacy, rather.
That is what at times baffles me. It's not true that political parties, especially who are IPAC members, are being influenced by the ruling party. No one can be influenced. When we, even the last IPAC meeting that we had, NPP, NDC, they were not present. But the last time they were saying that they were suggesting that they want Electoral Commission to now put our polls, the ending of polls, to 3 o'clock p.m. instead of the 5 o'clock, because it usually creates a lot of confusion and people still during, if it is in the night, done in the night. So when we were at IPAC meeting, we all supported it. They were not there. But once we were supporting it because we knew that that was a suggestion that was made by them. With NPP and NDC, at times it baffles me. They are always like that. When they are in opposition, they become babies. And then they want everything that they suggest to be taken into consideration. And when they are in power, it becomes a different thing. No political party or a minority political party will go into IPAC and sit down and try to make the ruling party becomes more bigger. We are all there to safeguard the interests of Ghanaians. We are there to safeguard the interests of PNC members. not to perform the interest of MPP or a ruling political party. But when you are in opposition, you become so suspicious of everything that other people are doing. And that one is it's like an opposition fever or something. When you are there, you think that people hate you, other people are conniving against you, and then they are trying to help the ruling party. But that is not true. It is not true at all. It is not true.
I just want to, but whether or not the NDC is in opposition or they're in power, the law is the law. And it is required, for instance, that political parties, for instance, submit their audited accounts before and after elections, and also have party offices in the majority of the constituencies across the country, and then have these 2/3. What the NDC is asking for is that that law is enforced, and that law is enforced by a body that can give it all the attention that they need.
That has always been the law, that political parties should have representation across the nation. Every constituency every constituency must have a party office. That has been the routine, and that has been something that is propagated all this while. But then, are all the political parties having party offices across the nation?
Is that not why we need a separate office for regulation of political parties, no matter how difficult it may be to create, so that they can enforce this law?
I don't see party offices of even playing any integral role or any important role in this issue. Because now, because of coronavirus, we are using Zoom and other things to hold our meetings. From the PNC side, we are using Zoom, we are doing virtuals to now hold our meetings. Those meetings are binding. And this party offices is okay, but we are thinking that representation of people from the grassroots is what Electoral Commission should be looking for, not a political party not an office. A rich person can come and get offices across the nation and will not have anybody being his member. And he will write his name and place it on all these offices, and then what? And the Electoral Commission is okay with that. We should rather look for human beings. Let's look for all political parties that have representation. They should have executives, and they should have people from the polling stations and the constituency that are championing the activities of those political parties.
So you would
that is what we should be looking for.
So you would propose a change.
Offices.
You would propose a change of the system as we have. I want to quickly ask what you think about. Right, it's fine. I want to quickly ask what you think about the question of consulting parliament before an EC chairperson is appointed. Currently, the status quo, we saw that under John Mahama and under Nana Addo Dankwa, that the Council of State is consulted. The NDC wants us to consult Parliament as well. What do you think?
It's okay. It's louder. It's okay. But then, what impact will it bring? What impact? I just want the NDC to know that it will not bring any change and it will not bring any impact. It will not bring any change from what is now being done. In the sense that when you look at Parliament, most at times, Parliament majority, the government in power usually have majority. And the opposition will always have a say, but the ruling party will have its way. So now, if you say that the electoral commissioner should be vetted, you will vet and bring all the things that you think are necessary, and they will go and vote her, and she will come into power. It will come into place. What is the use of all these things? So I'm thinking that but it's okay if all Council of State members, our ministers, and other people are passing through vetting, and they want the EC chairperson to also pass through vetting. What is wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that it will not have any impact. It will just be like the other ministers that they usually come out with a lot of things about them that they shouldn't be ministers. And at the end of the day, they are ministers and they are superseding over ministries. And there's nothing you can do about it. So let's look for the things that can really bring like absolute change to our electoral processes. instead of these small things
what things
that will not bring any impact.
What things would you think, do you think would actually change our electoral system? What reform would you like to see?
For instance, the EC, you know, it is the president that usually appoints the EC. Can't we have a way by which the EC chairperson will not be appointed by the president? Shouldn't we look for ways by which we can be able to get the EC chair without being appointed by the president? We can do that. If we are really looking for neutrality and impartiality of our electoral system, then let's also look for means by which we can bring them into office and politicians will not be part of it. So as for those processes, I think that those ones will be laudable and it will bring a lot of drastic change in our electoral processes. But with these things of...
Unfortunately, we seem to be losing Janet NABLA there, and we have run out of time. Let's move to other stories. And the chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edu-Jemfi, says the council has in the last few weeks been engaging indigents of the Volta region to address their concerns over being marginalized, in quote. According to Dr. Edu-Jemfi, a section of Voltarians are unhappy with government's approach to dealing with their challenges. These include failed political promises, lack of sea defense wall, the alleged military invasion during the 2020 mass registration exercise, among others. The engagement, according to Dr. Edu-Jemfi, comes on the back of demands by the Volta secessionist group. In an interview with Kwesi Parker-Wilson, he said government must not ignore these early warning signs, adding that a report on their findings will soon be presented to government for the necessary action to be taken.
Now, there are a few things that have come in, and sometimes when you ignore these early warning signs, it leads to other things. We saw the issue of the secessionist group. We've seen Fix the Country. Once you see all these things, there are indications of things that could happen if we don't tackle these things properly.
So is Fix the Country an early warning sign together as far as our peace is concerned?
Not necessarily, but for us as a peace council, we see some of these things as necessary interventions that must be provided. And so for us, as we handle soft security, it's important to get into some of these issues as quickly as possible, deal with them. For the past 3 weeks, we've been in the Volta region, holding various consultations, and to deal with why the Voltarians feel that they have been marginalized. And it's been revealing to see some of the things that we've discovered over there, to hear their concerns and all of those things. And sometimes you need people just who are ready to listen to you. So that's what we do. And all of these things that we do is to equip all our team so that we know exactly what to do at any given time to deal with the possible threats. But in terms of threats and all the issues going on around the Sahel, Burkina Faso, Mali, and then coming down to the northern part of our country are issues that are of concern. And it's important to understand how these threats begin, and then we put ourselves in readiness so that in case anything happens, we're ready as a country to face them.
We'll come to that, but you mentioned about the Volta region, how they feel they are marginalized. What is the specific intervention that you are putting in place to deal with it? Because you know that that's where the secessionist groups are coming from.
Yeah, we just concluded the project last Friday. So we put together a report, but there are a lot of things that we've heard from them, from sea defense to border crossing to villages that are in between Ghana and Togo with a road dividing them, how they are treated when it comes to registration and all. We heard all of those things. We're putting together a report to present to the government so that they will look at the issues and see what they can do in terms of some of those things.
And in your view, if some of these things are not checked, probably it could undermine the stability of the country.
Yes, it could. It could. And so where we see those things, we give early warning signs also to the government to prompt them that these are things that you need to pay attention to. And sometimes some of them come even through political promises. In their campaigning, you promise you will do this, you do that, you do that. And then you come to power, you don't do them. So people become agitated. But it's important to draw attention to all those issues so that the government becomes aware of how the people feel and what interventions they can introduce to ensure that there will be stability and peace.
So how soon will this report get to the government?
We're working, we've done the first bit of it. Probably by mid of next week thereabout, we should be able to finalize that.
Reverend Dr. Edu Jemfi also revealed that the Peace Council is planning to meet conveners of the Fix the Country campaign. The council fears their actions, if not checked, could undermine the stability of the country. Right, we'll bring that later. Now, residents in communities along the Wulugu-Patempe Road in the West MAMPRUSI municipality of the Northeast region are calling on the Inspector General of Police, IGP, to come to their rescue following a researched robbery attack. According to the residents, the robbers since last month have carried out more than 8 attacks on that road and in several parts of the area. They disclosed that the robbers do not only attack and seize their property, but torture and rape their women as well. The residents say the development is threatening their movement and livelihoods as they are unable to travel out of their communities to the municipal capital to access basic public services. They are therefore calling for the establishment of a police station and checkpoints and for the government to speed up work on the construction of the Wulu-Pasempe Road and help fight increasing robbery activities. Eliasu Tanko has more. Right, we will bring you that story later, but let's go on Zoom now. Chairman of the Municipal Security Council, Somo Lucky, has joined us for more. Now, Mr. Lucky, you've been visiting some of the affected communities. What have you established?
Hello? Please come
right,
in.
you have been visiting some of these affected communities, I assume.
Yes.
What have you found?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I think we've realized that most of the issues have to do with personal security and then community itself taking their security at their own hands. We have visited, myself and the regional minister, visited the various communities to educate them with members of music. Then we asked them how to come by this community watchdog and then how best we can take our own security into our own hands. You realize that for the past 5 months, there has been, a stable security in the West MAMPRUSI municipality. But just recently, about 3 weeks ago, we started picking up some other miscreants that tries to at least put the petition of the municipality in, take the security of the municipality for granted, and have started doing some robberies. You can see that the major highways, that is the Wale.
All right, Mr. Lucky, can you hear me? Somo Lucky there, he is the chief executive for West MAMPRUSI municipality. He said initially that he's been going around these communities and he's telling them that they need to form watchdog committees and take their security into their own hands. Mr. Lucky, if you have rejoined us, I'm asking
Yes.
that if you're asking people to form watchdog committees, are you suggesting that the police in the area are unable to deal with these challenges?
Not at all. The forming the watchdog committee is going to support the security, especially the police service, to do their work. Sometimes we rely much on informants for information, and our problem here, is dimensional, because most of the areas, especially the hinterlands,
Right, Mr. Somo Lucky there. He is Chief Executive for West MAMPRUSI Municipality. Pardon us for the difficulty in establishing that connection. So when I asked my follow-up question about watchdog committees, he said that they must support the existing security agencies. He was going on to make a point there, and then we unfortunately lost him earlier. He told us that things had been stable at West MAMPRUSI for about 5 months. Then about a month ago, we began recording these incidents. Let us quickly go on phone and speak to Mr. Somo Lucky. Right, Mr. Lucky, pardon us, the Zoom connection there failed us. So you were saying that you would want these watchdog committees to support the security services. But what are the new measures the security services are putting in place? What new thing are they doing to prevent the robbery?
Thank you so much. First of all, they have increased upon and then improved upon their patrol services in the municipality. One area that we were having challenge was, security personnel within the municipality, because as of 2017, we had about 99 security personnel, especially the police service, in the West MAMPRUSI municipality. But as we speak now, we don't even have up to 70. But God being so good, through the Minister of Interior, they were able to give us people from the anti-terrorist unit of the Ghana Police Service, which aim to complement the efforts of the military, of the police service here. And we also made an appeal through the Minister for Defense, and we had some military personnel too also here. So you could see that there's a tremendous improvement when it comes to the major highways, especially the Tamale-Wale-Wale-Bogatanga highway, where we used to have robbery every day with regards to these tomato sellers. You realize that Tomato Sellers Association went on strike not to come to the north to buy tomatoes again because of the robbery incident in Wale-Wale area. But now, it is now something that is a thing of the past. We have worked on that, and our major highways are now secure. You look at the Wale-Wale-Nalego highway, which is also secure. Now, the robbers have now targeted the hinterland, where, there's a far distance between the district capital and the communities that are afar. I just came from Kosinke this morning, which is about 47 kilometers from Wale-Wale. The road is still on construction. That is the area that they have been robbing. Now, the security personnel, especially MUSEC, took a decision that we must engage various stakeholders, especially the chiefs and the opinion leaders of the area. Right. We called the paramount chief and they called all their sub-chiefs. We educated them on how issues can be done or things can be put in place so that we can improve upon the security situation. One of the areas we look at was to form community watchdogs. This community watchdog will help us arrest aliens who comes to their area without them knowing their identity. When those people comes in, they are number one suspect. They become number one suspect in the various communities. And the security watchdog can link up with the security personnel in the municipality, where they can intervene and make sure that they actually interrogate these people that are coming to make sure that we don't get miscreants coming to those places.
Thank you.
Secondly, in case of any danger in the night, we are looking at the assembly is trying to see if in our bylaw we can put in ban of motor riding in the night.
Okay.
The robbers are now targeting motor riders in the night, especially when it is after 8 o'clock. So we are looking at the people taking their own security into consideration. If you don't go out after 8 o'clock with a motorbike or riding on the various roads, no robber will attack you. And if our security forces goes out there and meet anybody on a motorbike, we suspect that person is trying to rob, or it's a victim of robbery. First of all, we arrest the person to the police station, make sure that we interrogate the person very well until it's proven that the person is not a robber. Right. Then we can release the person out. That is one of our situations. Secondly, yes, please.
Right. Unfortunately, we would have to end the interview here for the sake of time. We are very, very grateful that you joined us here on News Desk. Let's now hear some of the concerns that people have been expressing. They've been speaking to my colleague, Ilyasu Tanko.
Far, 10 people are said to have suffered various injuries in the attacks, which have also led to the close down of a local market at Pasimpe, the hometown of former president of the National House of Chiefs, Wulugud Naba, Professor John S. Nabila.
Armed robbers attack us all the time. Wulugu to Silinga, they normally attack them more than 4 times. And Nabar to Sarba, they normally attack them, even use guns to shoot some people, our wives, dumping them. So several times we report to the professor Wulugu Naba, and he also let some delegates come. Nothing they can do. So we are appealing to the government and the DCE, the minister, if they can get a barrier to put in, to fix in the middle, so that they will protect us. Other than that, we are in trouble. They can easily come to our rooms and kill us and take our properties. So we are appealing to the government appealing to the president, appealing to the ministers to help us with this road. Other than that, we are in trouble.
They attack from here to Nabare and from here to Wulugu. There's another spot between Nabare and Sariba where they ambush people, all the way to Pasingpe, where the attacks have led to the closure of the market in the community. We are suffering, and only God can save us now. The residents also said the robbers are capitalizing on the poor state of the road to carry out the operations by mounting roadblocks at specific spots to ambush their targets. They want authorities to step up efforts by setting up police checkpoints on the road and take other security measures to protect life and properties in the area. Our cries are falling on deaf ears. Countless residents have been attacked, injured, and others killed. The development is giving us sleepless nights, and we need immediate assistance. We are always sad anytime our women are preparing because we are not sure of their safety. This is our worry, and we are pleading with the government to help us. Ilyasu Tanko reporting.
Now, the Ghana Immigration Service has repatriated some 76 illegal immigrants suspected to be recruited as internet fraudsters. The immigrants, who are made up of 72 Togolese and 4 Nigerians, are believed to be between ages 16 and 45. They were swooped in their hideout in the Volta region capital of Ho. Preliminary investigations indicated that they paid about 4,500 Ghana cedis to some individuals who promised to recruit them onto the QNet internet networking system. Volta Region Commander of the Immigration Service, Deputy Commissioner of Immigration, DCI Peter Clever Nantio, advised the public against falling victim to these internet fraudsters.
We keep advising you people that if you have 4,500 to give to somebody, why can't you use that money as a seed capital and start a business for yourselves? Number one. Number two, right now the borders are closed. And if you have that money, why not sit in Togo and use it to start a business? You people will go back right now to Togo. If you like, come back. I'll prosecute and jail you in Ghana. I don't see why young men like you and ladies like you cannot start something small and stay in Togo. You will break our executive law that says the borders are officially closed. You come in nothing useful to do. QNet, cyber fraud, and other matters. I can assure you, we are men up to the task. People don't have the basic travel document to enter Ghana. They don't have. Some don't have passport, some don't have even card they don't have. They just get up through the bush and Okada, they are in Ghana. Yes. One thing too I may need to lay emphasis on is that there are some non-Ghanaians who lure these innocent boys and girls into the country, so-called kingpins of the QNet business. And you people would have been aware that about a month or two ago at Bolgatanga, we were able to rope in over 500 QNet boys. The statistics across the regions are telling that we are really up to the mandate and the requirements, and we have the proficiency, the efficiency, and the know-how to track them down. And so that these are some of the results. So as such, My final warning to those greedy leaders in Ghana is that whether you are a Nigerian or a Togolese boss, don't try and import people to come and join your QNet illegal business. Don't. They will get you. The truth of the matter is that normally it's difficult to get the boss himself. Whichever way that things are, they can go around jumping down, but that day will come where they will sweat and sweat heavy to exonerate themselves from the long arm of the law.
Hey, officer, they take number. Really?
This is Joy News Desk with me, Daniel Dazi. Stay tuned for business.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. More than 99% of the population have been enumerated so far. According to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Enim, enumerators are, however, struggling with communities where access is restricted. These include gated estates and some remote areas.
And housing census. We are keeping our call center active because some of these people who have declined to participate are requesting that we give them access to the law that gives us permission to do census on a decennial basis, and we are happy to continue to engage these people for them to provide the needed data as we wrap up data collection for the 2021 population and housing census. Another reason why we are grappling with less than 1% of the population, specifically 0.6% of the population, are areas that we have restricted access. This has nothing to do with the respondents in there. As was indicated, is the management of these restricted areas, specifically areas around areas in Lejokuku district, specifically around the Airport Hills areas. We're going to continue to engage to ensure that we get access to these communities to ensure that they are enumerated. With the foreign communities, as was indicated in our last release, we are counting on other state institutions, i.e. the Ghana Immigration Service, to help us get access to these areas. Otherwise, we'll move ahead to bring a complete closure to our call center and data collection for the 2021 population and housing census come 18th August 2021.
Now, a board has been constituted for Ghana's Cocoa Regulatory Authority, COCOBOD. The chairman of the board, Peter MAC-MANU, has told Joy Business that this board will fast-track all cocoa-related policies and put the farmer first. There's more in the following report.
Inaugurating the 11-member board, the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Osuofri Akoto, charged members of the board to address challenges faced cocoa production, from timely payment of cocoa farmers to the marketing of the commodity.
We need to look at how we are going to make sure that the financing of the bigger crop is done without impeding on the finances of the farmers. Because as you know, we've had quite a lot of complaints from farmers about delayed payments. Of course, that is partly due to the COVID, which caused a reduction in world demand for cocoa beans, which meant that we couldn't sell forward all the crop by the end of 2020. We are hoping that with a pickup in the world economy, the demand will be re-established. We'll be able to dispose of all the cocoa that we are expecting to harvest in the coming year.
The chairman of the board, Peter MAC-MANU, is confident of some positive turnarounds for the sector. He tells Joy Business cocoa farmers will be prioritized in all policy direction that his outfit embarks on.
It is our intention as a board to improve upon the achievements achieved so far under former board, to bring the cocoa industry to another level that will bring more revenue in terms of foreign exchange to Ghana, our motherland.
All right. You also stated that you're going to push some specific policies that hitherto, to fast track the entire process of making the sector viable. Which particular policies are you referring to, and how are you going to do that?
I'm referring to the PEP, Productivity Enhancement Program. Productivity Enhancement Program aims at increasing the output per acreage. So, like I said earlier, it will involve irrigation, pollination, and others, so that within the same acreage, the farmer will produce more and earn more. That's why we call productivity enhancement programs. And we're going to continue with that so that the farmer will get more products and earn more.
The 11-member board includes the Chief Executive of COCOBOD, Joseph Boahen Adu, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Edu Boahen, among others.
Well, finally, I want to give you a heads up about Joy Business Social, which is coming off later in the day at 6 p.m. In fact, Odilia Ntiama will be engaging Daniel Sapong, who is a sales author. They're going to be talking about sales that is online on our social media platforms, on LinkedIn, Joy Business Ghana, on JoyNews, on Twitter, and Joy Business Facebook. Don't miss it. A conversation around sales. Meantime, there's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top story there, SNIT loses $11.79 million from liquidation of 3 investments, according to the Auditor General's report. You can read more about that. Coming up next, though, is sports.
The just-ended Ghana Premier League season was, per media reports, infiltrated by betting companies, which led to many matches of convenience. On match day 34 of the football season, the match involving Inter Allies and Ashanti Gold had a defender of Allies, Hashim Musa, scoring 2 deliberate own goals, and later explained that there were reports that the match was fixed. The Ghana Football Association initiated steps to investigate and eradicate a situation many say has become endemic. The FA engaged the Police Criminal Investigative Department to help find the perpetrators of these betting acts. Following that move, President of the football governing body, Kurt Okreku, warned that his administration will come after the people who engage in fixing matches to face the full rigors of the law.
If you are here and you know that you played a part, just be ready. Don't call me because you didn't call me when you wanted to play the role. Don't call me. And those who are calling must stop. Those who are calling phone regarding betting must stop. To quote the former president of America, we will chase them out of their hiding places. Bring them to justice.
Mr. Okreku also promised to protect the sanctity of the association's products.
I will not shy away to say this. Our football has and was attacked by faceless cowards. I'm talking about betting. I'm repeating myself. Our sport has been attacked by faceless cowards.
The ballsy comments by Gertrude Kraku. Yeah. Faceless cowards. Who are these people?
The faceless cowards are the people who feels or thinks that they attacked the integrity of Ghana football. They fixed matches and they just ended football season. And these people, he's said that they should not call him. I have my own opinion about asking people not to call him, because I think that as a first gentleman of football, every investigator would need information to be able to get to the root of every matter that comes to him. And he's a key witness in this. He's the first or the chief investigator in this. So if I were Kurt Okreku, I would personally have encouraged those people to rather come and share information with me on why they are engaging in such acts. And because I want to weed them out of the system, it helps me get more information and present it to the the authorities to act and take better decisions. But to ask them not to call you, I don't know what he was trying to say.
That's an interesting view.
Yes, many people...
Perhaps he wants to stand and, be more disciplined.
But the point is that people might think that you're taking him out of context, but when we are listening to people, we listen to the words, not to the context you're putting before us.
Anyway.
So that is clearly what it is. As we've mentioned before, they're investigating 8 different matches, not just the one involving Ashgold and Inter-Allies. And the football governing body is determined to eradicate it. Just yesterday, the CID set up a team to investigate this matter, and that is clearly what is happening. We don't know whether the laws of the country are against match fixing. But what we do know is that the GFA is working on eradicating match fixing from our game.
Thank you, Muftar Nabila, for joining us this morning. And that's it for this bulletin of Joy News Desk. My name is Daniel Dazi. Up next is Mapito Sebidi with Joy News Interactive. See you at midday.